The Mass Observation Archive specialises in material about everyday life in Britain. I'm going to share with you a little of my research findings on nature and women's wellbeing during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is for our nature-themed month, which forms part of our 85th anniversary programme. In March 2020, as the UK went into a national lockdown, Mass Observation started to document the pandemic. With the aid of our national panel of mass observers and new contributors who submitted diaries, we have now generated a collection of over 10,000 documents. This offers rich insights now and in the future of people's everyday lived experiences during this unprecedented time. It's a unique lens on the nuanced thoughts, feelings and experiences of people across the UK as they respond to events. Prior to the pandemic, Mass Observation's national panel of volunteer observers have responded to open-ended survey questions known as Directives since 1981. Seen here are subjects they've written about, including natural disasters, gardening, environmental issues and farming, to name a few. Researchers have the opportunity to search the collection by theme or by individual, therefore opening up the chance to follow people across different directives on particular themes.
We've been taking different walks locally and started walking around a local park at the start of lockdown to give us a slightly longer walk. We found that our walks were at a similar time to a local group of dog walkers, so we spent the last 5 months greeting them most evenings. We have been spotting more red kites in our area and have enjoyed watching the springtime expansion of the rabbit and rat populations. Being at home so much, we've spent more time in our garden, so have paid more attention to the goings on there. I put a bird feeder up and I love watching the sparrows, adults and fledglings alike.
Our volunteer observers write anonymously, providing candid and open accounts of their thoughts, opinions and experiences. It's a substantial collection of narrative documents, along with illustrations and artwork, as you can see here with some pressed flowers. The material offers both an intimacy and immediacy to the pandemic's events as they unfold. It captures people's engagements with nature and wildlife, their routines in the garden and green spaces, the familiar walks and the newly discovered areas. We've just started a Wellcome-funded project to catalogue and make available the COVID-19 Collection. This will be in a digital resource to make the material available to a wider range of disciplines.
COVID has invited us to slow down instead of rush around, to sit instead of walk, to listen to the birds instead of shouting over them.
People wrote of their observations, experiences and reflections, and both their connections to and appreciation of nature. It offers a voice to those who would otherwise be unrecorded. I used Mass Observation's COVID-19 collection to research what encounters with nature meant to the well-being of female mass observers during the pandemic. My research focused on 40 female observers who had responded to 2 directives at different time points: the Spring 2020 Directive and the Summer 2020 Directive. This allowed me to capture changes in how women experienced the pandemic as it unfolded. It covered the early months of the pandemic and the initial UK lockdown restrictions. Within the 2 directives, there's only one nature-related prompt, yet it is a present subject across the responses. My findings identify that observers experienced new, increased and fluctuating emotions in response to COVID-19, and there's evidence to show reduced mental well-being due to a sense of loss of control in 3 areas: of changing responsibilities, processing information, and loss of connectedness. Of the 40 writers I selected, 87% wrote of their engagements with nature. The narratives show an awareness of a renewed engagement with nature, which is beneficial to their well-being and arises as a direct consequence of the pandemic. One area of my research explores how engagements with nature re-establish a sense of purpose and routine in the lives of the observers. As well as actively engaging with nature, observers specify the frequency and regularity of their outdoor encounters.
Yesterday it was visit 22 to the pond. The ducks are putting on weight.
I've been walking around the streets more, looking for front garden inspiration.
Encounters bring a structure to their lives, mitigating the sense of a loss of control over their changing responsibilities. Their encounters involve physical exercise, an activity which requires control over oneself, and observers also engage in activities that exert control over their environment, such as gardening and growing vegetables.
I was delighted to stay in, apart from a daily walk and visit to our allotment, which is 10 minutes walk away. Having a routine was a chance to structure my time better. I became the shopper, the cook, the allotment gardener, and the housekeeper. I suppose that gave me a sense of being in control.
In viewing the 2 time points of spring and summer, we are given a longitudinal lens to see how observers' lives change across the early months. For one observer, she describes herself as an introvert, with the restrictions supporting her anxiety and previous social demands. Yet lockdown meant an apathy to go out. In spring, she's bored of the park and writes of her varied and fluctuating emotions. However, by summer, we see a contrast.
I incorporated exercise into a new routine, going litter picking on a Monday morning with a friend. This is something I look forward to doing every week, as it was in contact with someone outside of my home. A nice stroll in the park and a way of giving something back to society.
So she's developed connections with another person and with her local environment, providing a positive and rewarding experience. Female mass observers' engagements with nature reveal feelings of purpose, a sense of control and achievement arising from choice of focus, repetition of activity, and the manipulation of their environment towards a positive outcome. I'll end here with one of my favourite extracts. The one thing that I really liked was that you could hear more wildlife. It was like they'd all been waiting in the wings. Please get in touch if you would like to hear more about Mass Observation's COVID-19 collection.